Peter Sismigu wrote in. He says, "Hello, marvelous Mr. Maldonado. Let me make you sad some more and bring up Splinter Cell. At this point, it feels like Ubisoft is fucking with us fans on purpose. Let's take a little trip to Dreamland for a second. If you could have any studio take on this beloved IP, which one do you think would do old Sam justice? In my opinion, IO Interactive seems kind of like an obvious choice, as Hitman 3 is low-key the best Splinter Cell in years." Yeah, that's kind of true. But I'm sure you have another studio in mind. You know what? This is going to sound really out of left field, and I understand, but I think if you would hear me out, I think Massive Entertainment, the people behind The Division, could make an amazing Splinter Cell game. I know that they focus on The Division and The Division 2. Like, I understand that they're in, like, the live service and multiplayer field. But the minute-to-minute gameplay of, like, walking around, like, in a third-person environment in The Division 2 feels really amazing. And I think they do have a pretty good eye for, like, tech and, like, UI design that, like, merges really well with Splinter Cell. Whether or not they have the talent to make a single-player stealth-driven game, I really don't know. I can't say. It's a genre that's been very, very dead for a very, very long time, so there's really not a lot of talent to pick from that you could really draw as one-to-one analogous to that kind of game. But, you know, I think they have a pretty good handle of Tom Clancy as, like, an aesthetic, and I think they have a pretty good handle of how to move around a 3D space as a third-person entity. And I think if they just took that engine and, like, made, like, a single-player Splinter Cell thing, I think that could be amazing. If not them, then the people that I think would do an amazing job as well are Arcane. I think Arcane could potentially make a great Splinter Cell, because they already have experience making stealth games with Dishonored and Dishonored 2, and those games are really, really great. They have a pretty good handle of how to move around in first person, which is obviously like a big part of the original Splinter Cells was spies versus mercs, where you had the third person spies and the first person mercs playing asymmetric multiplayer against each other. I could see that working really well. But given that they're one of the few people still doing stealth type games, it's really just Massive and Arcane that come to mind as the studios that I would come to and I would say, pitch me something, and I think they could potentially pitch something really cool. Jimmy Two-Face wrote in. He says, "Hey, Crisps, hope the crake is mighty." I don't know what that means. I, too, am a huge Splinter Cell fan. Okay. Also a big Hitman fan. Oh, look at that. We're best friends, Jimmy. You are my best friend now. However, I don't feel like Hitman scratches the same itch Splinter Cell does, and I long for its return. But if they do bring it back, I think it could recapture... Do you think it could recapture the magic of Chaos Theory? Who do you think Ubisoft... And do you think Ubisoft would be capable of bringing it back to basics? I do think they could be capable of bringing it back to basics. Yeah, Hitman is more social stealth. Like, Hitman is more about, like, wearing disguises and like, blending in and, walking around, like, hiding in plain sight. That is the gameplay loop of Hitman, is, like, you're hiding in plain sight, you're setting up these elaborate traps. Splinter Cell is definitely more of, like, pure stealth, more like stick to the shadows, like avoid people's lines of sight, go above them, go below them, crawl into vents like EMPs and like sneaking cameras under doors. And like I totally agree. Like while a comment earlier said that Hitman is the best Splinter Cell game in years, I think that's also true. I think both of these are true at the same time, because like Hitman is the closest we've gotten to Splinter Cell, but it's still not scratching the itch that Splinter Cell scratches. And I do think that we need... Look, man, I believe we need a new Splinter Cell. I've been banging this drum for years. And you know what? If it comes out, you can thank me. But I do think it's capable of living again. I think Splinter Cell is fantastic. And honestly, in my honest opinion, I think Splinter Cell games have only gotten better. Like, maybe not level design wise, and maybe not like as far as like the core stealth goes, but like Splinter Cell Conviction plays amazingly, and like Blacklist was a pretty damn good game too. It just didn't have any of the things that I wanted. Like it had like a hub world. It didn't have Michael Ironside. It's like, what am I playing this for? But I think they could make Splinter Cell live again. Absolutely. I wouldn't be banging the drum for it if I didn't think that it had an amazing shot at being fantastic.